Let's get into the OU stuff, and watch list season continues to roll. And Marvin Mims was named to the Biletnikoff Award watch list. And when you think about his year last year, right? And, I was thinking about it, and clearly Lincoln leaving and all the change. And he was thinking about what he wanted to do, stay or go. But the fact that Lebby was bringing that offense and, just what Venables is all about. He's talked about how it was an easy decision to stay. But, man, I had kind of forgotten. Only 32 catches last year.
Yeah.
Which in a couple of games, it just felt like he almost disappeared. It's just weird. 32 catches, 705 yards, 5 touchdowns. Ted, I don't know if he's going to have a Biletnikoff worthy year, but I expect those numbers to significantly increase.
Yeah, I do too. It sounds like he's done all the right things. The one thing I don't know is that's a talented group, man. That's a talented group right now. And there's some bigger guys in the room now. It's a different offense. You've got a different quarterback that you've got to develop some chemistry with. I mean, I don't think obviously like he's going to get outshined by anyone, but it's hard to really forecast if this offense is going to have a go-to guy. You know what I'm saying? With as many different styles of player they have, is there going to be a go-to weapon?
Well, it's not even, and that's not even wide receiver, right? Running back as well. Lebby traditionally has liked to get a lot of different guys touches. And I think it has a lot to do with making it challenging on the defense, but also the more I get to know Lebby, the more I hear about Lebby, he understands what college kids are like. He understands that if you get certain guys touches early in the game, like it can raise their level of play because it changes their demeanor and just, how invested they feel in the game. Like there's still a very real human component to this sport. And he understands that. So he likes to spread the ball around, especially early. But one of his things is score from far, right? So I would expect Mims, and I know the offense is all about matchups, but I would expect Mims to really be trying to test teams vertically this year. I mean, now there's a lot that goes into that. You got to run the ball well to set up those chances. You got to protect the quarterback well, like the offensive line's got to be playing well. You got to do a lot of things well to really have a strong vertical passing game. But Mims can absolutely run, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I'm really hoping that we see more of those explosive plays in the vertical passing game for him, because I'm thinking this offense plays to his strengths a little better.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons Mims' numbers struggled a little bit last year is because the running game struggled, right? And sometimes that seems counterintuitive, but the better you run the football, the better you throw the football. And I feel like the run game is going to be amped up quite a bit this year. And, with some of those looks that you force and some of the play action stuff, it's going to give these guys some really good matchups. It's just the question, is that guy going to be Mims? And right now you got to say he's the leader of the group, but there's some other dudes now. There's a lot of guys.
The name that keeps coming up is Jalil Farouk.
Yeah.
Right. And he's having a tremendous summer, but that's the name that keeps coming up. When you talk to the guys on the staff, when you talk to the guys on the strength staff, that he has been building in the off season for the fall, and they think it can be a breakout season for him. But I'm excited about Farouk, but I'm going back to this sense of almost frustration I have felt from Marvin Mims all off season. frustration, a motivated frustration, if you will, where I think he wants to remind people of, what type of player he can be. And clearly Dylan Gabriel's got to play at a high level. A lot of things have to happen for Marvin Mims to have a massive year, but I think he's going to have a big year. I really do. Now, Biletnikoff Award level,
tough.
That's tough. That's tough, but I don't think there's any doubt he's got a chip on his shoulder. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, he should. It's almost like it's been you didn't even have to really do anything. If you transferred away from Oklahoma, it elevated you as a player, right? Hazelwood transfers away, and now all of a sudden it's like he left, and wow, how is OU going to survive without a 5-star wide receiver? Mario Williams transfers to USC, and it's like, wow, Mario Williams to USC, amazing. And Mims has got to be sitting there like, hang on a second now. Let's just hang on 2 seconds. This thing is not going to end up the way people think it is. He's probably frustrated that everyone that he's outdone the last couple of years is getting all these accolades for leaving, and no one's talking about him.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's like, oh yeah, Hazelwood's going to be incredible at Arkansas. Mario Williams, he's going to just tear through the Pac-12. Those guys weren't even close to as productive as Mims, like
right.
Not even close. In fact, both of those guys were very disappointing last season from a production standpoint. So yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it for sure.
Yeah, it's it's got to be frustrating for him, but it'll come. It's not going to last long before it starts pouring in.
Yeah. So Eric Gray is on the Doak Walker Award watch list, and he felt underutilized last year, right? And he's certainly the guy that the staff trusts the most in the running back room, but I think the running game schematic changes are going to be very beneficial to him. I mean, he even talked to me about it last year, how it was hard for him to adjust to the tempo of the GT counter stuff, especially the way that Kennedy Brooks would do it. I don't think that was very natural for him. Now, I think he settled into it a little bit, but he never looked totally comfortable running that way. I think when you look at Lebby's kind of mid-zone scheme and how much of that stuff they're going to do, I think that's going to allow him to be a little more aggressive with his style, a little more assertive run, a little more, with a little more physicality. And he had several runs. We talked about it on here a lot last year where it felt like, oh, he just just got it by the shoestrings. Like, and it just, hopefully those turn into big, long, explosive runs this year. And I do think going to a heavier zone running attack will be really beneficial for Eric Gray. But now, as far as winning the award for being the best running back in the country, he's going to have to show us a lot more than that, but it's cool that he's on the watch list.
Yeah. Well, I think he's got a lot of skills. This offense is one where you can put up some good numbers as a running back. There's some things to watch for that, frankly, weren't there before. Throwing the ball to the running backs, for whatever reason, not something that Lincoln Riley liked to do. They did it with Mixon, but even with Mixon, it was almost like they had to split him out to ever throw him the football. There was some, like, he caught some wheel routes and stuff like that, or some, some seam balls up the middle whenever they schemed something up. But I started laughing during the spring game. We threw the check down. They threw the check down a couple of times in the spring game, which, may not seem like a whole lot, but you dump it down to a running back on, it's 3rd and 10, you dump it down on a little 5-yard check down, let a guy like him get some space, make a backer miss, and go get a first down. Those plays can turn out to be incredibly productive. Running back screens. We didn't throw hardly any running back screens. It was always, some type of schemed up wide receiver screen or something like that. So I think there's some different avenues for him to make some plays. But again, just kind of like Mims, there's some other dudes there that have you wondering what their production's going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but it kind of goes back to, now, I had a conversation with Deuce Vaughn during the season last year because it seemed like they always found 2 or 3 times a game to where they just got him one-on-one with a backer on an angle route. Like that was exact.
One of the hardest things for a linebacker to do is cover an angle route.
But they would figure out certain formations, use certain motions to where they knew they were going to get that matchup. And Levy likes to do that type of stuff as well. And I do think Eric Gray, he showed flashes of it. Remember, caught it well out of the backfield against Oregon. He's shown flashes of being really, really capable of making big plays if you can put him in those situations. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets some more of that stuff. But yeah, it's going to be tough to be, just the dominant force in the backfield when it comes to how the carries are going to get distributed, because Levy likes to get a lot of guys involved. And Marcus Major seems like he's really good for this scheme. Javonte Barnes has already added more strength, speed, weight this summer. So Eric Gray, while he's the guy the staff to trust the most, that they trust the most, he's the veteran guy. He's also, you got to perform, right? I mean, you absolutely have to perform, or else some of these other guys are going to get chances. Now they're going to get chances anyways, but I expect him to be a lot more productive. I do. I think this style fits him better.
Yeah. Well, you can't win that award without a really good offensive line. And, this is going to be the biggest test, or the thing that I'm going to be watching the most through training camp and in early season. What does this offensive line look like? Are they gelling? Does the scheme fit these guys? Are they playing as one? If you get some good play from those guys early, you can start talking about, players going out there and putting together, big seasons. I mean, first thing you got to do is be first team all conference. It's been a while since we've had first team all conference running back. Just that's goal number one right there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Okay. Last guy on another watch list, Brayden Willis, your guy. Brayden Willis on the Mackey Award watch list. Of course, the Mackey Award goes to the best tight end in the country. And listen, I love Brayden Willis. I love all the dirty work he does. I still continue to wonder what is a realistic expectation for him when it comes to like the jump in production as a pass catcher this year. He's an athletic freak. There's no doubt about it. But he's also an athletic freak that had 15 catches last year for 177 yards. He has not been a big factor in the pass game ever in his OU career, in his 4 years. What are we expecting from him? Like he's been that guy that does all the little things from him, tight end, H-back, fullback, whatever you want to call it. But is it realistic to expect him to have some breakout year as a pass catcher?
No, I don't think it's bad to expect that. Expect him to go in the Mackey, that may be a bit much, but I think it's definitely within reason that, he can be a 35, 40 catch tight end. I don't think that is,
which would be a massive increase in production.
Right. Yeah. Now, I don't know, we saw that red zone target against Oklahoma State, which is like, this is what we've been asking for, right? With Brayden Willis, with, he's long, he's athletic. You give him a mismatch, he can go up and make some plays for you. Like, I don't know how much of stuff like that I would expect, but man, when you're a big zone team, you're going to be a big boot team. And when you're a big boot team, the easiest throws are always the tight end. You try and look for the comeback, it's not there. You look for the over, it's not there. You look for the flat, and I imagine they're going to run a lot of boot off of all the zone looks that they do. And, that should give him the ability to have a higher catch total. Does it mean that he's going to have a Mark Andrews type of 2017 year? No, I don't think so. It's going to be a little bit different style, but he can still be way more productive.
Yeah. So Mark Andrews, when he won the Mackey in 2017, 62 catches, 958 yards, 8 touchdowns. If Brayden Willis has half of that, this offense is going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's a guy that has 400 to 500 yards receiving, that would be huge for this offense. It would just add a weapon that they haven't had, right, in the passing game. Just a big athletic guy. And I know it's weird saying that because Brayden Willis has been on the team, but he hasn't been that guy up to this point. That's one of the most intriguing storylines heading into the season for me is now, can he stay healthy, right? That's also been an issue for him. But if all of a sudden a guy that big and athletic is a big factor in your passing game, that changes how defenses have to view things. So that would be huge. I just don't know what to expect, man. I really don't.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Here's another thing that I think helps him out a lot. I don't know how much 12 personnel, 2 tight end stuff Levy's going to do. I imagine it's going to be a decent amount. And he's no longer the thumper blocker. That's Parker. Right? He's the big, strong ox. So that puts him in the position where he'd be the guy that maybe moves a little bit more behind the line of scrimmage. He's the guy that maybe whenever you go 12 personnel splits out and is away from the core. So I think that possibly could help out his production numbers as well.
Yeah. All of a sudden he's no longer a Y, he's an F.
Yeah. Yep. He's the athletic one. It's which he was before too, but they just had a different role for him.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think that's going to be fascinating.